And so the question you have to ask yourself, where are we in that scale of upward mobility? I bet everybody in this room, I'm not asking you to raise your hand, but most everybody in this room, I'm 48, if you're my age or somewhere near or older, you live better than your parents. It's particularly from rural areas. I mean, my mother-in-law didn't have electricity growing up. My father-in-law was actually raised in a log cabin. When I showed the kids the house my dad grew up in, they said, how did all those uncles that you have fit in that house? And so a lot of you here probably have those similar stories. But you ask people today, do you think your children will live better off? A lot of people don't raise their hand. A lot of people wonder if America's best days are behind. And I don't believe that. But the question in Washington, D.C. today is which path to get back to that. Because everybody wants the middle class to prosper. But what path do you go? And I hate pettiness in politics. I absolutely hate anything petty. When churches get petty, when people get petty, clubs get petty, families get petty. But there are big issues going on in Washington, D.C. that are worth big discussions on. And it's really the direction, how are we going to move forward in the middle class? And what role is government in that? Because I think people are feeling uneasy, not in their own confidence, but uneasiness in the confidence of government. And I'm one that doesn't think government creates the wealth for you. So why do I think uneasiness and confidence of government? But it kind of creates the platform for which you move forward. Somebody was just in Uganda the other day, a friend of mine named Jack Kingston, and he said he was in a little shack in Uganda, and he's an appropriations guy. They were looking at AIDS in Africa. And there was this young lady with AIDS, and her grandmother was holding her. And said there was no running water, no sewer, no electricity, and no road. But the grandmother's cell phone went off. And it dawned on me standing there, it says, water, road, sewer, all the others provided by the government, and there's no confidence in the government in Africa. The cell phone is private. So the only thing that worked is what the private industry was able to produce in Africa. And think about that. That's realistic what people move forward. So what is the role of government? Getting to my point, and what policy should move forward. I had a good friend. I graduated from West Point, what Karen just said, in 1987. I was at a graduation dinner, and my good friend's grandfather was there. He was 90 years old, born in 1896, because he hadn't had his birthday at that point. I can do the math, 1896. William McKinley was president of the United States in 1896 when this man was born. William McKinley is famous, sent out a suggestion for reining in the expense of government. It's going on forever. And the head of the patent office sacrificed himself. He sent a note back to McKinley and says, I suggest shutting down the patent office because the steam engine, the car was on the horizon. I can't imagine anything else that could be created. And he was right because he couldn't imagine it. But there were two brothers in Dayton, Ohio, in a bicycle shop trying to figure out how to fly. I mean, that's the things that you got to make. The government's not designed to create those kinds of wealth and move forward. John Kerry said it, and I'm not political on this, but I think it's important to kind of set up the different philosophies we're moving forward. When George Bush was running for president, again, when he was running against George Bush, and to be fair, he was talking about stem cell research. That's what he was talking, because George Bush didn't do stem cell research. But he said it this way. He goes, just imagine if George Bush was president, we wouldn't have electric lights back in the day. If George Bush was president, we would have candles instead of electric lights. We'd have horse and buggies instead of cars. We would be using typewriters instead of computers. And that's a quote. And I remember hearing that and said, he doesn't get it. We have electricity because of the genius of Thomas Edison. We have cars because of the ingenuity of Henry Ford. And I guarantee if government got involved, IBM would be still getting paid not to make typewriters. But having said that, it doesn't mean we have no government. We have electricity, we got to reach the rural areas, and co-ops and all the different things that have happened in government to make sure people have access to electricity. We don't want everybody to go build their own road. That would be worse traffic than we have already. And we're working to get computers, broadband out to the other areas. So there are things that we all have to figure out and work together to move forward.